As you lie down and settle into the quiet stillness of the night, feel the weight of your body pressing gently against the surface beneath you. Close your eyes, let your thoughts soften, and allow your mind to drift slowly, carried by the subtle rhythms of your own breathing. Tonight, we will journey through the deep, measured currents of life itself, tracing the gradual unfolding of intelligence on our planet, from its earliest stirrings to the complexity that now surrounds us. What does it mean to be intelligent? How did life on Earth evolve the capacity to sense, to respond, to learn, and to understand the world in increasingly sophisticated ways? These questions stretch across billions of years, touching every corner of the living biosphere, from the simplest single cells to the creatures that navigate their environments with remarkable awareness. Intelligence is not a single phenomenon, but a spectrum of capacities, each arising from physical structures and environmental pressures, each a product of evolutionary history. The story begins with the very first forms of life. Around 3.8 to 4 billion years ago, Earth was a planet in flux. Its surface roiled with volcanic activity, and its oceans were acidic pools stirred by chemical reactions. Amid this tumult, molecules of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen assembled into self-replicating structures, forming the earliest precursors to living cells. These protocells were not intelligent in any way we would immediately recognize, yet they displayed the fundamental characteristic that would become the foundation of all cognition: the ability to respond to their environment. Simple chemical gradients guided their movement, allowing them to absorb nutrients and avoid harmful substances, creating the first primitive feedback loops between organism and world. As these simple organisms persisted and diversified, a profound shift occurred with the emergence of multicellularity, roughly 600 million years ago. Cells began to specialize, forming cooperative colonies that allowed more complex behaviors. Some of these early multicellular organisms, such as sponges and cnidarians, developed rudimentary nerve nets, diffuse arrangements of neurons that could transmit signals across the organism. These nerve nets provided the first structures capable of integrating sensory input and coordinating movement in a coherent manner. Signals were conducted chemically and electrically, and even in their simplicity, these systems allowed for forms of learning through repeated stimulation. A sea anemone retracting its tentacles in response to touch, or a jellyfish pulsing rhythmically to navigate the currents, were early demonstrations of adaptive behavior, marking the beginning of a continuum that would, over eons, give rise to intelligence as we know it. During the Cambrian period, approximately 541 million years ago, the variety and complexity of life expanded dramatically. The oceans teemed with arthropods, mollusks, and early vertebrates, each developing increasingly sophisticated nervous systems to process sensory information from their surroundings. Centralized ganglia in arthropods, for example, allowed coordinated movement and more intricate behavioral patterns than diffuse nerve nets. Cephalopods evolved even more elaborate brains relative to their body size, enabling rapid learning and flexible problem-solving. Early vertebrates, meanwhile, began constructing central nervous systems with defined brain regions, each specialized for processing vision, motor control, and basic spatial navigation. Even at this stage, memory emerged as a crucial adaptation, the ability to retain information about locations, resources, or potential dangers increased survival, offering a selective advantage that shaped neural architectures over millions of years. Through these gradual, cumulative changes, intelligence began to spread across diverse forms of life, not as a single pinnacle, but as an evolving set of strategies for survival, adaptation, and interaction with the environment. Each incremental advance, from chemical sensing to neural integration, from reflexive response to rudimentary learning, laid the foundation for the astonishing cognitive diversity that would follow. The earliest networks of neurons, delicate and microscopic, were the silent ancestors of every thought, every calculation, and every insight that would eventually emerge on Earth. From the Cambrian seas, life continued to diversify, and vertebrates emerged with structures that allowed increasingly complex interactions with their environments. Fish developed brains organized into regions capable of more specialized processing. The cerebellum coordinated movement and balance, while the telencephalon began to handle sensory input and simple associative learning. These structures enabled behaviors such as predator evasion, territorial navigation, and the recognition of patterns in the environment, which were critical for survival. Fish learned to differentiate between edible and inedible objects, to anticipate the movements of predators and prey, and to navigate currents and landmarks with remarkable precision, forming the earliest observable examples of spatial intelligence. As vertebrates transitioned onto land, amphibians carried these neural capacities with them, adapting them to a terrestrial world filled with new challenges and opportunities. Frogs, salamanders, and their kin exhibited memory that guided foraging and mating behaviors, and they employed increasingly sophisticated strategies to evade predators. Sensory systems expanded, vision, hearing, and olfactions became more acute and were integrated into neural networks capable of evaluating complex environmental information. Reptiles, with further elaboration of the forebrain, displayed early forms of planning and problem-solving. Certain lizards demonstrated spatial awareness and the ability to remember locations of food caches or safe refuges, indicating the evolutionary advantages of retaining and processing environmental information over extended periods. Birds took a parallel evolutionary path, independently developing high levels of cognitive function despite their divergence from mammals hundreds of millions of years earlier. Corvids, such as crows and ravens, evolved brains with dense neuron packing, particularly in the forebrain, supporting exceptional memory, tool use, and social complexity. Birds that migrated across vast distances developed navigation systems capable of integrating visual landmarks, geomagnetic cues, and stellar orientation. Their intelligence was expressed not only in survival behaviors, but in complex social interactions, learning from one another, and solving problems that required sequential reasoning. Even songbirds exhibited neural plasticity that supported learning and memory, demonstrating that the capacity for intelligence could evolve along multiple anatomical pathways. Among mammals, cognitive capabilities expanded further. Early mammals survived in environments dominated by dinosaurs, relying on nocturnal activity and complex sensory processing. The development of social structures among early mammalian species created selective pressures favoring enhanced memory, recognition of conspecifics, and communication. Maternal care, cooperative foraging, and territorial defense all contributed to the evolution of brain regions specialized for social cognition. Primates, in particular, developed a neocortex with increased surface area, allowing for fine motor coordination, advanced visual processing, and the ability to track social hierarchies. The selective pressures of social living required that individuals predict the behavior of others, remember past interactions, and learn from observation, creating a feedback loop in which intelligence itself became a key evolutionary advantage. In primates, these neural expansions led to behaviors recognizable as complex cognition, tool use, problem solving, and the transmission of knowledge across generations. Chimpanzees fashion sticks to extract termites from mounds. Orangutans shape leaves to serve as protective cups, and capuchins manipulate objects to access food, all demonstrating a capacity to integrate sensory input, memory, and motor coordination to achieve goals. Communication systems within these species include alarm calls, gesture-based signaling, and vocalizations that convey information about food or danger. Such behaviors indicate not merely instinctive reaction, but an understanding of relationships between objects, individuals, and consequences, forming the foundation for abstract thought. Meanwhile, intelligence evolved in non-mammalian lineages in fascinating ways. Cephalopods, particularly octopuses, developed large, complex brains with extensive peripheral ganglia controlling their arms. This arrangement allows both centralized decision-making and decentralized problem-solving. Octopuses exhibit remarkable behavioral flexibility, solving mazes, opening containers, and remembering solutions for extended periods. Social insects, although possessing tiny brains, achieve sophisticated collective intelligence through distributed decision-making. Ant colonies and beehives coordinate labor, navigate complex environments, and communicate intricate information about resources through chemical signaling and movement patterns. These examples reveal that intelligence can emerge through diverse evolutionary strategies, whether centralized or distributed, neuronal or chemical. Across all these lineages, environmental pressures shaped cognition in consistent ways. Predation favored faster learning and anticipatory behaviors. Foraging in variable environments rewarded memory and spatial reasoning. Social complexity required recognition, cooperation, and deception. Brain tissue is energetically costly, so the development of intelligence was constrained by metabolic limits, leading to selective expansions in regions that provided the most adaptive benefit. Plasticity, the ability of neural circuits to reorganize in response to experience, became a crucial feature, allowing individuals to adapt behaviorally to local conditions and pass knowledge to successive generations. Through millions of years, intelligence on Earth diversified along multiple trajectories, influenced by anatomy, environment, and social context. Each lineage refined sensory perception, memory, learning, and problem-solving in ways suited to its ecological niche. From the earliest nerve nets in a simple jellyfish to the complex social reasoning of primates, the story of intelligence is one of incremental accumulation, of subtle modifications and selective pressures shaping capacities to sense, to respond, and ultimately to reflect on the world itself. Among hominins, the trajectory of intelligence took a remarkable turn. Early members of the genus Homo, emerging around 2.5 million years ago, began to manipulate their environment in ways unprecedented among their primate relatives. Homo habilis, often identified as one of the first tool-making species, shaped stone implements to cut, scrape, and process food. These actions required precise motor control, planning, and the ability to anticipate outcomes, integrating sensory information with memory and learned techniques. Tool use was not instinct alone. It demanded observation, repetition, and refinement, forming the first recognizable bridge between cognition and culture. Homo erectus, appearing approximately 1.8 million years ago, extended these capacities further. Their use of fire for warmth, cooking, and protection illustrates the sophisticated understanding of cause and effect, and the coordination required to maintain and control fire. Demonstrates social learning. Communication within these groups likely involved more structured vocalizations, gestural, signaling, and shared attention, allowing knowledge to be transmitted across individuals and generations. Such innovations enhanced survival, expanded dietary options, and created selective pressures, favoring larger, more integrated brains capable of complex reasoning and long-term planning. With the emergence of Homo sapiens roughly 300,000 years ago, cognitive capacities reached new dimensions. Anatomical adaptations, including a highly developed neocortex and expanded prefrontal regions, enabled enhanced working memory, executive function, and abstract reasoning. Language evolved as a central feature, allowing detailed communication about past events, future intentions, and hypothetical scenarios. Symbolic thought emerged alongside this linguistic capacity, expressed in cave art, personal adornments, and ritual behaviors. These manifestations of symbolic cognition indicate not only technical skill, but conceptual awareness, the ability to represent ideas mentally and convey them externally. Culture became a vehicle for intelligence, shaping behavior independently of immediate genetic changes. Teaching, imitation, and collective problem-solving allowed groups of Homo sapiens to accumulate knowledge across generations, creating feedback loops that intensified cognitive demands. Innovations in tool design, clothing, shelter construction, and social organization reflect the integration of memory, planning, and abstract reasoning. Individuals observed the behavior of others, experimented with materials, and encoded successful strategies, reinforcing learning within the group and increasing the selective advantage of cognitive flexibility. Human intelligence, however, is only one expression among many in the biosphere. Cephalopods, such as octopuses and cuttlefish, exhibit problem-solving abilities, memory retention, and environmental manipulation comparable in sophistication to some vertebrates, despite their independent evolutionary lineage. Corvids demonstrate sequential problem-solving, tool use, and episodic-like memory. Dolphins and whales exhibit complex social structures, vocal learning, and cooperative behaviors, indicating that intelligence can emerge in diverse anatomical forms when selective pressures favor flexibility, memory, and communication. Each evolutionary path emphasizes adaptation to the environment, interaction with conspecifics, and the capacity to store and apply information in useful ways. The pressures driving intelligence are multifaceted. Predation necessitates rapid learning and anticipation of threats. Resource scarcity encourages exploration, memory, and innovation. Social living fosters recognition of hierarchies, cooperation, and deception. Environmental challenges, including climate variation and habitat complexity, further shape neural development. Energy constraints limit brain expansion, so evolutionary solutions prioritize regions providing the most adaptive benefit. Neural plasticity, enabling learning and behavioral modification is essential for responding to novel conditions. Across millions of years, these factors have produced cognitive diversity unparalleled in any single domain, creating a landscape in which intelligence is a mosaic of specialized adaptations rather than a linear progression toward a singular pinnacle. Within this continuum, measurement and comparison of intelligence have become central to scientific study. Behavioral experiments assess memory, problem-solving, tool use, and social learning. Observational studies document communication patterns, cooperative strategies, and cultural transmission. Comparative neuroscience examines brain anatomy, neuron density, and connectivity to relate structure with function. Each approach highlights the variation of intelligence across taxa and underscores the complexity of equating one species' cognition with another's. These studies reveal that intelligence is context-dependent, an emergent property of interacting biology, environment, and social systems. Ultimately, the evolution of intelligence on Earth is a story of gradual accumulation, of adaptations arising from necessity and opportunity. From chemical signaling in protocells to the nuanced social reasoning of humans, every step reflects the delicate interplay between neural structures and environmental challenges. Life's capacity to sense, learn, and respond has been shaped over billions of years, producing a spectrum of cognitive abilities that continues to expand as species navigate ever-changing landscapes. Each brain, each neural network, each behavioral adaptation is a testament to the persistent drive of life to understand and interact with its world. Even as we observe and study intelligence, humans are part of the same continuum, participants in an unfolding story that spans deep time. Our capacities for reflection, abstract thought, and technological innovation are grounded in the same biological and evolutionary processes that shape the earliest neurons. Awareness of this continuity offers a perspective that is both humbling and profound, reminding us that intelligence is not exclusive, but a shared trait among the living, sculpted by necessity, environment, and adaptation. As you rest, consider that the quiet workings of your mind are echoes of billions of years of life learning, responding, and becoming aware of itself in increasingly intricate ways. Across the animal kingdom, intelligence manifests in an astonishing variety of forms, each shaped by anatomy, environment, and social structure. In cephalopods, the octopus exhibits a nervous system distributed between a central brain and peripheral ganglia in its arms. Each arm can independently explore, manipulate objects, and respond to stimuli while the central brain monitors overall behavior and integrates information. This arrangement allows remarkable flexibility in problem-solving and exploration, including navigating mazes, opening containers, and remembering solutions for future encounters. Despite their short lifespans, octopuses demonstrate learning that rivals many vertebrates, illustrating that intelligence is not constrained by phylogeny or lifespan, but emerges where evolutionary pressures favor adaptive information processing. Birds provide another compelling example. Corvids, such as crows and ravens, possess forebrains densely packed with neurons, supporting sophisticated cognitive functions. They solve multi-step problems, manufacture and use tools, and exhibit episodic-like memory, recalling specific events with spatial and temporal context. Parrots demonstrate vocal learning, capable of mimicking sounds and using them in appropriate social contexts, suggesting not merely repetition, but understanding of communicative meaning. Migratory species employ neural maps to navigate thousands of kilometers, integrating visual landmarks, geomagnetic cues, and celestial orientation. Avian intelligence reveals that evolution can produce high-level cognition in vastly different anatomical frameworks, emphasizing functional outcomes over structural similarity to mammalian brains. Social insects, while possessing minuscule individual brains, exhibit collective intelligence that rivals larger organisms. Ant colonies and honeybee hives coordinate labor, forage efficiently, and adapt to environmental challenges through distributed decision-making. Communication occurs through chemical pheromones, tactile signals, and intricate behavioral sequences. No single insect comprehends the entirety of the colony's operations, yet through local interactions and feedback loops, the colony functions as a coherent, problem-solving entity. This distributed cognition demonstrates that intelligence can be emergent, arising from interactions among simpler units rather than residing solely within a central brain. Marine mammals, including dolphins, whales, and seals, display social intelligence marked by cooperative behaviors, vocal learning, and cultural transmission. Dolphins develop signature whistles that function as individual identifiers, engage in coordinated hunting strategies, and demonstrate the ability to understand complex instructions. Whales convey songs that evolve over time, suggesting the presence of collective memory and cultural learning. These behaviors illustrate that intelligence can encompass both individual problem-solving and the capacity to participate in socially mediated knowledge, reinforcing the idea that cognition is shaped by ecological and social contexts. Within all these examples, several common threads emerge. Environmental challenges, including predation, foraging complexity, and spatial variability, drive the development of memory, learning, and sensory integration. Social living imposes demands for recognition, cooperation, and competition, favoring neural structures that support behavioral flexibility. Energy limitations constrain the size and complexity of brains, promoting efficient allocation to regions that provide the greatest survival advantage. Neural plasticity becomes essential, allowing organisms to adapt behaviorally to changing circumstances and to incorporate lessons from experience into future actions. Across disparate species, intelligence arises as a solution to the problem of survival in a dynamic world. Neuroscience provides insight into the mechanisms underlying these diverse cognitive strategies. Brains are composed of neurons, specialized cells capable of transmitting electrical and chemical signals. Synaptic connections between neurons form networks that encode information, allowing organisms to integrate sensory input, store memories, and generate behavior. Different neuron types, excitatory, inhibitory, modulatory, contribute to the balance and regulation of neural circuits. Learning and memory are supported by processes such as long-term potentiation, in which repeated activity strengthens synaptic connections, enhancing the capacity for behavioral adaptation. These cellular and molecular mechanisms provide the biological substrate upon which evolutionary pressures act, shaping species-specific patterns of intelligence. Behavioral studies complement anatomical investigations, revealing how cognition is expressed in natural contexts. Problem-solving experiments assess the ability to manipulate objects, anticipate consequences, and plan sequences of action. Observations of social interactions Document cooperation, deception, and cultural transmission. Memory studies track spatial navigation, foraging efficiency, and recall of past events. Comparative analyses highlight the diversity of solutions evolution has produced, the tool-making skills of primates, the problem-solving flexibility of cephalopods, the collective intelligence of social insects, and the vocal learning of birds and marine mammals all demonstrate that intelligence is multidimensional and context-dependent. As the planet has aged, intelligence has become increasingly varied and specialized. While humans exemplify symbolic thought, abstract reasoning, and technological innovation, other species continue to exhibit remarkable cognitive capacities tailored to their ecological niches. Across deep time, life has explored countless pathways to sense, respond to, and manipulate the environment. The processes shaping cognition are ongoing, with natural selection continuing to favor adaptations that enhance survival, reproduction, and social cohesion. Even now, in every ocean, forest, and savanna, species refine strategies of perception, memory, and learning, contributing to the ongoing story of intelligence on Earth. Reflection on this spectrum reveals that intelligence is not a ladder with humans at the apex, but a branching, interwoven tapestry of adaptive solutions. From the earliest nerve nets in jellyfish to the complex social reasoning of mammals and the distributed cognition of insect colonies. Every manifestation of intelligence represents a successful response to the challenges of survival and interaction. Each neuron, each learned behavior, each adaptive innovation is part of a continuum, linking all living creatures across billions of years in a shared history of cognition. As you rest now, consider that the quiet workings of your own mind, memory, perception, problem-solving, and reflection are part of this continuum. Your thoughts echo the processes that have evolved over eons, refined by survival pressures and shaped by the environment. In the stillness, the gradual accumulation of knowledge, experience, and awareness that defines intelligence in every living being is mirrored in your own consciousness, a living testament to the persistence and adaptability of life itself. The evolution of intelligence is inseparable from the biological machinery that supports it. In all animals with nervous systems, neurons serve as the fundamental units of cognition. These specialized cells transmit electrical impulses along axons and release neurotransmitters across synapses, enabling communication within vast networks. The arrangement and density of neurons vary across species, reflecting evolutionary pressures that shape sensory processing, motor control, and behavioral flexibility. In birds and mammals, for example, dense packing of neurons in the forebrain supports complex problem-solving and memory, while in cephalopods, a combination of central and peripheral neural networks allows decentralized decision-making, each arm capable of exploration and manipulation, independent of the central brain. Energy availability imposes critical constraints on the evolution of intelligence. Neural tissue consumes a disproportionate amount of metabolic resources. The human brain, comprising roughly 2% of body mass, accounts for approximately 20% of basal energy consumption. Such costs necessitate selective allocation of neural resources, favoring the expansion of regions most beneficial to survival and reproduction. In smaller brain species, efficiency is achieved through high neuron density in key areas or through distributed processing, as observed in ant colonies or octopus arms. Energy constraints have therefore shaped not only the size, but the structure and function of brains, creating diverse solutions to the universal challenge of processing information effectively while maintaining metabolic balance. Neural plasticity further extends cognitive flexibility, the ability of synapses to strengthen or weaken in response to experience, as well as the generation of new connections, allows organisms to adapt their behavior to changing environments. Learning emerges from this capacity. An animal that remembers the location of a reliable food source, that recognizes the calls of conspecifics, or that recalls strategies to evade predators, demonstrates the survival advantage of plastic neural circuits. Across species, plasticity is linked to the complexity of behavior. Birds that learn songs, primates that develop tool use techniques, and cephalopods solving novel problems all rely on mechanisms that modify neural connections based on experience. Evolution has favored organisms capable of modifying behavior within a single lifetime, complementing genetic adaptation over generations. Memory, closely tied to learning, provides temporal depth to intelligence. Spatial memory allows animals to navigate complex environments, recalling the location of food caches, nesting sites, or migratory routes. Episodic-like memory, observed in corvids, primates, and dolphins, enables recollection of specific events with context, supporting problem-solving and social strategy. Procedural memory, the retention of skills and techniques, underlies tool use and coordinated behavior. Together, these forms of memory allow organisms to predict outcomes, evaluate risk, and optimize decision-making, providing adaptive advantages in environments that vary across time and space. The evolution of social cognition represents a significant dimension of intelligence. Social species, from ants to humans, require neural circuits capable of recognizing individuals, interpreting behavior, and coordinating collective action. In primates, the neocortex supports the maintenance of social hierarchies, alliance formation, and cooperative problem-solving. Dolphins exhibit similar capacities in coordinating group hunting and transmitting learned behaviors across pods. Social learning allows knowledge to accumulate within populations without genetic change, forming the basis of culture, which accelerates the development of complex behavior and further selects for cognitive abilities that support observation, imitation, and communication. Sensory integration is another hallmark of evolved intelligence. Vision, hearing, olfaction, and mechanosensation feed information into neural networks, allowing organisms to construct internal models of their environment. Predators track prey movements, foragers distinguish edible from toxic plants, and migratory birds integrate celestial and geomagnetic cues. Each input requires encoding, processing, and retrieval, demonstrating that intelligence is distributed across perception, memory, and action. Across species, the integration of sensory information into coordinated behavior exemplifies the adaptive function of neural complexity. Problem-solving, another dimension of cognition, manifests in species ranging from primates to octopuses to birds. Novel situations demand flexible strategies that rely on prior knowledge, trial and error learning, and sometimes foresight. Tool use, puzzle solving, and strategic deception reveal the capacity to anticipate consequences and adjust behavior, emphasizing that intelligence is not merely reactive, but predictive. The evolutionary advantage is clear. Organisms that can adapt to unforeseen challenges are more likely to survive and reproduce, reinforcing neural architectures that support flexible cognition. As we consider these mechanisms collectively, it becomes evident that intelligence is a multi-layered phenomenon. It is built from molecular and cellular foundations, shaped by metabolic constraints, refined through plasticity and learning, and expressed in behaviors that enhance survival. The evolutionary history of intelligence reflects iterative adaptations to specific environmental and social contexts, producing diverse cognitive strategies across taxa. From the nerve nets of early multicellular organisms to the distributed decision-making of insect colonies, from the tool use of primates to the navigational feats of migratory birds, each example illustrates a different solution to the universal challenge of interacting effectively with a complex world. Over the eons, these processes have accumulated incrementally, layer upon layer, producing a rich spectrum of cognitive abilities. Intelligence is not a linear hierarchy with a single apex. It is a branching, interwoven network of strategies, each shaped by necessity and opportunity. In reflecting upon this diversity, one can appreciate the remarkable convergence of function across lineages, the repeated emergence of learning, memory, problem-solving, and social awareness in response to common selective pressures. Even as humans develop abstract thought, technology, and culture, these capacities are grounded in the same principles that guided the evolution of cognition in countless other species. As you drift deeper into stillness, consider that every act of memory, perception, and reasoning is part of this vast continuum. The neurons firing in your brain are echoes of billions of years of evolution, reflecting the survival challenges and adaptive responses of life itself. Intelligence, in all its forms, represents the persistent drive of organisms to understand, anticipate, and navigate their environments, a shared legacy of life on Earth that continues to unfold quietly, inexorably, and beautifully in the natural world around us. Across the vast expanse of Earth's ecosystems, intelligence manifests in an extraordinary array of forms, each shaped by the demands of survival and interaction with the environment. In the oceans, dolphins navigate intricate social networks while hunting in coordinated groups, using signature whistles to identify one another and employing problem-solving skills to access elusive prey. Their brains are highly developed, with a neocortex and limbic structures that support memory, social cognition, and emotional processing. These capacities allow dolphins to learn from one another, innovate strategies, and transmit knowledge culturally, demonstrating that intelligence encompasses both individual problem-solving and socially mediated learning. Similarly, corvids such as crows and ravens illustrate convergent evolution of intelligence in a completely different anatomical framework. Their forebrains contain neuron densities rivaling those of primates, supporting complex behaviors including tool manufacture, multi-step problem-solving, and planning for future events. Experiments have shown that New Caledonian crows can bend wires to extract food, use sequences of tools in combination, and even anticipate the needs of others in cooperative scenarios. Such behaviors reveal that cognitive sophistication can emerge independently of mammalian lineage, shaped instead by environmental pressures and opportunities for innovation. Cephalopods, particularly octopuses, further exemplify independent evolutionary pathways toward intelligence. With distributed nervous systems, octopuses are capable of sophisticated problem-solving while retaining autonomous control of their arms. They navigate mazes, open containers, and exhibit remarkable memory for spatial arrangements. Their short lifespans highlight that intelligence is not necessarily linked to longevity. Rather, it evolves wherever selective pressures favor adaptive learning, manipulation of the environment, and flexibility in behavior. Even among insects, intelligence takes unique forms. Ant colonies coordinate large-scale construction, foraging, and defense through distributed cognition, chemical signaling, and local interaction rules. Individual ants operate without awareness of the entire colony's plan, yet collective behavior emerges that efficiently solves complex problems. Honeybees communicate the location of nectar through precise waggle dances, effectively transmitting spatial information and enabling cooperative resource acquisition. These examples underscore that intelligence is not defined solely by brain size or centralization, but by the capacity to process information, learn, and adapt behaviorally. The evolutionary pressures driving these capacities are diverse and interrelated. Predation encourages rapid learning and the development of anticipation skills. Variable environments reward spatial memory, foraging strategies, and behavioral flexibility. Social living selects for recognition, cooperation, and sometimes deception, demanding the ability to process and recall interactions with conspecifics. These pressures act in concert over millions of years, producing the wide array of cognitive adaptations observed across taxa. At the neurological level, intelligence is enabled by networks of neurons, synaptic connections, and plasticity. Learning depends on strengthening or weakening synapses in response to experience, a process that allows organisms to adapt behavior within a single lifetime. Memory encodes both procedural knowledge, such as motor skills and tool use, and episodic knowledge, such as spatial routes or social events. Sensory integration allows organisms to construct internal representations of their environments, combining visual, auditory, olfactory, and mechanosensory input into coherent models that guide behavior. Evolutionary pressures shape these circuits, allocating neural resources to functions that provide the greatest adaptive advantage while balancing metabolic costs. Comparative studies reveal the multidimensionality of intelligence. Primates exhibit tool use, social hierarchies, and cultural transmission. Birds demonstrate navigational expertise, vocal learning, and sequential reasoning. Cephalopods manipulate their environments and learn from experience, while social insects achieve collective intelligence through distributed systems. Marine mammals combine social complexity with problem-solving and communication. These diverse strategies illustrate that intelligence is not a singular trait, but a spectrum of adaptive responses shaped by biology, ecology, and social interaction. The slow accumulation of cognitive abilities across billions of years has created a rich, interwoven tapestry of intelligence. Each innovation, from simple stimulus response mechanisms to abstract reasoning, reflects the interaction of neural architecture, environmental pressures, and social structures. Life has experimented with countless ways to sense, remember, learn, and act, producing an extraordinary diversity of solutions to the fundamental problem of survival. This continuum of cognition links every living organism to the earliest forms of neural integration, forming an unbroken lineage of adaptive thought. Even in our own minds, the echoes of this evolutionary process persist. Every act of observation, memory, and problem solving is the product of billions of years of incremental development. The brain you inhabit is an intricate network shaped by both genetic inheritance and personal experience, reflecting the cumulative history of life's engagement with the world. The intelligence present in humans is continuous with the capacities found across other species, a point of connection in the broader story of life's adaptation and awareness. Memory, a cornerstone of intelligence, has evolved in multiple dimensions across species. Spatial memory allows animals to navigate their environment efficiently, recalling the locations of food sources, nests, or migratory landmarks. In birds, specialized hippocampal structures support extraordinary abilities to remember hundreds of cache sites, often over long periods, demonstrating precise spatial awareness. Mammals, particularly primates, rely on a combination of hippocampal and neocortical circuits to encode both spatial and social information, enabling recognition of individuals, recall of past interactions, and prediction of behaviors in social hierarchies. Even in cephalopods, episodic-like memory allows these invertebrates to avoid locations associated with negative outcomes while returning to fruitful areas, revealing that memory is a universal adaptive tool, albeit shaped by each species' ecological niche. Learning is intimately connected with memory and extends intelligence into flexible, adaptive behavior. Trial and error learning, observational learning, and imitation are evident in numerous species. Primates demonstrate the capacity to acquire tool use techniques by watching others, gradually refining these behaviors through practice and innovation. Corvids solve sequential problems, remembering the outcomes of prior attempts to optimize future strategies. Octopuses can learn to navigate novel environments or open complex containers, showing rapid adaptation to new challenges. Across these examples, learning serves as a bridge between immediate experience and future action, providing a mechanism by which intelligence enhances survival without necessitating genetic change. Social cognition represents another profound dimension of intelligence, shaping behavior in species that live in groups. Recognition of individuals, understanding social hierarchies, and the ability to anticipate the behavior of others are crucial for cooperation, competition, and conflict resolution. Primates and cetaceans exhibit these capacities extensively. They form alliances, engage in reciprocal behavior, and employ deception strategically. Social learning allows skills, strategies, and knowledge to propagate across generations, creating cumulative culture. In humans, this capacity has been magnified, enabling the transmission of complex technical skills, moral frameworks, and symbolic knowledge through language, storytelling, and teaching. Language itself represents a unique manifestation of cognitive evolution. Early hominins likely employed proto-linguistic systems of gestures, vocalizations, and shared attention, gradually evolving into fully symbolic communication. This capacity allowed humans to convey information about objects, events, and abstract concepts, dramatically expanding the scope of knowledge transmission. Complex language supports planning, collective problem solving, and the accumulation of culture, accelerating cognitive development across generations. The evolution of linguistic structures also facilitated the organization of social groups, coordination of hunting and gathering, and the creation of shared beliefs and norms that underpin societies. Cultural evolution has intertwined with biological evolution, forming a feedback loop in which cognitive capacities shape the environment, and the environment, in turn, selects for further intelligence. Toolmaking, fire use, construction of shelters, domestication of plants and animals, and technological innovation all reflect the integration of memory, planning, and problem-solving with social learning. These behaviors not only enhanced survival, but also created selective pressures for more sophisticated neural architectures, reinforcing the evolutionary trajectory toward higher intelligence. Technology, in particular, illustrates the profound impact of cognitive evolution. The refinement of stone tools by early Homo species demonstrates sequential planning, fine motor control, and foresight. Later developments, from metallurgy to agriculture to digital computation, reflect cumulative knowledge built upon previous generations' experience. Each technological advance is both a product and a driver of intelligence, requiring mental representation, abstract reasoning, and coordinated social effort. The capacity to externalize knowledge through artifacts represents a novel dimension of cognition, extending the adaptive reach of intelligence beyond the individual to the collective, across time and space. Across all these domains, the interplay between environment, social structures, and neural architecture emerges as a recurring theme. Selective pressures favor efficient, flexible, and adaptive processing of information. Ecological complexity encourages learning, memory, and problem-solving. Social living demands recognition, cooperation, and communication. Energy constraints shape the allocation of neural resources, emphasizing efficiency and specialization. Plasticity ensures that organisms can respond to novel situations, integrate experience, and adjust behavior. Across taxa, these pressures have produced a staggering diversity of cognitive solutions, each uniquely adapted to its ecological and social context. Even as humans have reached unparalleled levels of abstraction, planning, and symbolic reasoning, these capacities are continuous with the evolutionary processes that shaped intelligence in all living creatures. The underlying principles, neural complexity, memory, learning, sensory integration, social cognition, are evident in every organism that exhibits adaptive behavior. The human mind, in its reflective and creative capacities, is not separate from this continuum, but a highly elaborated branch of the same evolutionary tree, connected through billions of years of incremental adaptation. As night deepens and your own mind quiets, it is possible to sense the continuity linking all living intelligence, from simple neural networks in early multicellular organisms to the complex problem-solving of modern humans, from distributed cognition in insect colonies to cultural transmission among primates. The story of intelligence is a gradual unfolding, shaped by necessity, opportunity, and the persistent drive of life to understand, respond to, and influence its environment. Across the diversity of life, comparative studies reveal that intelligence is multifaceted, manifesting differently according to ecological demands and anatomical possibilities. In extreme environments, cognitive abilities are often heightened to meet specialized challenges. Polar bears, for example, rely on spatial memory and sensory acuity to track prey across vast, featureless ice fields, anticipating the movements of seals beneath the snow and ice. Migratory birds integrate complex navigational cues, combining geomagnetic, visual, and olfactory information to traverse thousands of kilometers. Desert rodents exhibit intricate spatial memory, locating food caches hidden across barren landscapes while avoiding predators. In each case, intelligence is adapted to environmental pressures, demonstrating the intricate link between ecological context and cognitive development. Collective and emergent intelligence further illustrate the diversity of adaptive cognition. Social insects, including ants, bees, and termites, exhibit behavior that appears coordinated at the colony level, despite the limited neural capacity of individual members. Pheromone trails, waggle dances, and local interactions generate solutions to complex problems, such as foraging optimization and nest construction. Similarly, flocking birds and schooling fish coordinate movement in ways that balance predation risk with resource acquisition, relying on simple local rules that collectively produce sophisticated outcomes. These systems show that intelligence need not reside entirely within individuals. It can emerge from interaction, feedback, and distributed processing, highlighting the many forms cognition can take across life. Predation, resource distribution, and social complexity continue to drive the evolution of cognitive abilities. Species that experience high predation pressures develop rapid learning, anticipatory behaviors, and flexible escape strategies. Animals foraging in spatially and temporally variable environments evolve memory and planning capacities to track resources efficiently. Social species require recognition, cooperation, communication, and sometimes deception, favoring neural adaptations for complex interaction. Even within a single species, variation in environmental pressures can produce differences in cognitive abilities, illustrating intelligence as a dynamic, context-dependent property, rather than a fixed attribute. Neuroscientific research provides insight into the physical underpinnings of these abilities. Neurons form intricate networks with excitatory and inhibitory signals shaping behavioral output. Long-term potentiation allows repeated stimulation to strengthen synaptic connections, supporting learning and memory. Neural plasticity enables reorganization of circuits in response to experience, critical for adapting to environmental changes. Different brain regions contribute specialized functions. Sensory processing areas encode external input. The hippocampus supports memory and spatial navigation, and prefrontal-like regions in mammals facilitate planning, decision-making, and social reasoning. Evolution tunes these structures according to species-specific needs, producing neural architectures that balance efficiency, complexity, and metabolic constraints. Behavioral studies complement anatomical insights, revealing intelligence as expressed in real-world problem-solving. Tool use, innovation, and sequential reasoning demonstrate flexible adaptation. Social learning and cultural transmission illustrate the propagation of knowledge across generations. Spatial cognition, episodic-like memory, and predictive planning reveal the capacity to integrate experience over time. Observations across taxa reveal convergent evolution, where distantly related species independently develop similar cognitive capacities when confronted with analogous ecological or social challenges. This convergence underscores the adaptive value of intelligence and demonstrates the multiple evolutionary pathways that produce similar functional outcomes. The spectrum of intelligence on Earth encompasses both individual and collective dimensions. Solitary species rely primarily on memory, problem-solving, and sensory integration to survive and reproduce. Social species, from primates to cetaceans, to eusocial insects supplement individual cognition with mechanisms for learning from others, coordinating group behavior, and transmitting knowledge culturally. These strategies illustrate that intelligence is not a single measure, but a set of adaptations tuned to environmental and social conditions, a continuum that spans simple neural networks to complex cultural systems. Within humans, these principles are magnified. Our species exhibits abstract reasoning, language, and symbolic thought, enabling unprecedented capacities for planning, reflection, and technological innovation. Yet even these abilities are continuous with the cognitive processes observed in other species. Tool use, problem-solving, social learning, and communication have deep evolutionary roots, refined and expanded over millions of years. Cultural evolution, in which knowledge and behavior are transmitted across generations, accelerates the accumulation of intelligence, creating feedback loops that further shape cognition, neural development, and societal structures. As night deepens and stillness surrounds you, it becomes possible to appreciate intelligence as a shared characteristic of life, expressed across species, ecologies, and social systems. From the simplest protocells responding to chemical gradients to octopuses navigating mazes, corvids solving sequential problems, and humans building complex civilizations, cognition is a thread connecting all living things. It represents the ongoing dialogue between organism and environment, shaped by adaptation, energy constraints, social complexity, and the persistent drive to sense, respond, and understand. In this quiet, reflective moment, one can sense that intelligence is not a ladder with a single pinnacle, but a branching, interconnected spectrum, a mosaic of solutions to life's enduring challenges. Each neural circuit, each learned behavior, each cultural innovation is part of a continuum extending across billions of years. The evolution of intelligence on Earth is thus both a story of survival and a testament to life's capacity to learn, adapt, and engage with the world in ever more intricate ways. Human intelligence, while rooted in the same evolutionary principles as other species, has expanded into realms of abstraction, culture, and technology in ways unparalleled elsewhere on Earth. The development of symbolic thought allowed early Homo sapiens to represent concepts beyond immediate sensory experience, giving rise to art, ritual, and storytelling. Cave paintings, carvings, and early musical instruments demonstrate the capacity for symbolic communication, reflecting memory, creativity, and planning. Such activities not only enriched social cohesion, but also reinforced cognitive capacities, creating a feedback loop between cultural expression and neural complexity. Technological innovation further exemplifies this dynamic. Early stone tools, refined over hundreds of thousands of years, reflect precise motor control, sequential planning, and the ability to anticipate the results of action. The mastery of fire allowed food to be cooked, increasing caloric efficiency and supporting further brain expansion. Later developments, agriculture, metallurgy, writing, and eventually digital technologies, illustrate cumulative knowledge, in which information acquired over generations enhances problem-solving capacity beyond the scope of individual experience. Each technological advance is both a manifestation of intelligence and a driver of its evolution, emphasizing that human cognition is deeply entwined with the environment and social context. Comparative cognition continues to provide insight into the nature of intelligence. Studies of primates, birds, marine mammals, and cephalopods reveal repeated solutions to ecological and social challenges, demonstrating convergent evolution of complex problem-solving, memory, and social awareness. Neural anatomy, including neuron density, connectivity, and plasticity, correlates with observed behaviors, while behavioral experiments reveal the ways in which learning, innovation, and culture emerge across species. These comparative perspectives highlight that intelligence is multidimensional, context-dependent, and adaptive, arising wherever selective pressures favor memory, flexibility, and communication. Energy constraints remain a fundamental factor shaping cognition. Brains are metabolically expensive organs. Evolutionary expansion requires sufficient caloric intake and efficient neural architecture. Trade-offs exist between brain size, metabolic demands, and reproductive investment, influencing patterns of growth, longevity, and behavior. Plasticity allows organisms to adapt to variable environments, optimizing neural resources while maintaining capacity for learning and problem-solving. Across species, energy allocation shapes the evolution of intelligence as profoundly as any ecological or social factor, ensuring that cognitive capabilities are tuned to maximize survival within resource constraints. Social learning and culture amplify these effects. Knowledge can be transmitted across generations, reducing individual trial and error and accelerating adaptation. In humans, language enables complex coordination, teaching, and abstract reasoning, forming the foundation of education, science, and technology. In other species, simpler forms of cultural transmission, such as tool use techniques in chimpanzees or song variation in birds, demonstrate that culture is not unique to humans, but varies in complexity according to neural, ecological, and social constraints. This continuity emphasizes the shared principles underlying intelligence, while the variation in expression illustrates the richness of evolutionary pathways. Environmental challenges, including climate variability, predation, and resource distribution, continue to shape cognition. Animals in dynamic environments develop memory, problem-solving, and predictive behaviors, while social species refine recognition, cooperation, and communication. Comparative studies reveal that intelligence often emerges where these pressures intersect. Species that must navigate complex landscapes, anticipate the behavior of others, and exploit opportunities efficiently tend to evolve heightened cognitive capacities. The diversity of solutions underscores that intelligence is not a singular measure, but a set of adaptive responses tuned to each species' ecological and social niche. The evolution of intelligence is also a story of feedback loops. Neural expansion enables greater behavioral complexity, which in turn allows for more sophisticated social structures and environmental manipulation. These capabilities create selective pressures for further neural refinement, producing a gradual accumulation of cognitive sophistication. In humans, the interaction of culture, technology, and cognition exemplifies this process at an accelerated scale. Yet the underlying principles remain continuous with those observed in other taxa. Memory, learning, problem-solving, and social coordination are foundational across life, and humans amplify these capacities through symbolic thought and cumulative culture. As you settle into stillness, it is possible to perceive intelligence as a continuous thread weaving through all life. The neurons firing in your brain, the memories that guide your actions, the planning and reflection occurring silently within your mind, are echoes of processes that have evolved over billions of years. From the earliest multicellular organisms responding to chemical gradients to the complex social reasoning of modern humans, cognition is a spectrum of adaptive strategies, each shaped by necessity, opportunity, and the persistent drive to sense, understand, and interact with the environment. With that, the vast diversity of intelligence on Earth becomes apparent. Every species, from solitary insects to complex mammals, exhibits forms of cognition suited to its ecological and social realities. Every neural network, behavioral adaptation, and learned skill is part of a continuum connecting life across deep time. The evolution of intelligence is, therefore, both a story of survival and a testament to life's capacity for awareness, flexibility, and understanding, continuing to unfold in subtle, intricate ways all around us. Across taxa, fine-scale neural adaptations illuminate the ways intelligence evolves in response to specific challenges. Birds navigating complex habitats exhibit enlarged hippocampal regions to support spatial memory, enabling the recall of hundreds of individual cache sites. Primates demonstrate expansion of prefrontal cortical areas, supporting executive functions such as planning, inhibition, and social reasoning. Cephalopods exhibit dense, highly plastic ganglia in their arms, enabling independent motor control and problem-solving. Each of these adaptations demonstrates that intelligence is not monolithic. It reflects precise tuning of neural structures to ecological demands, maximizing efficiency and survival potential. Behavioral adaptations complement neural specialization. Tool use varies from simple object manipulation to multi-step problem solving, reflecting memory, foresight, and dexterity. Communication spans chemical signals in insects, vocal learning in birds, echolocation and signature whistles in marine mammals, and complex language in humans. Cooperative behaviors such as coordinated hunting, shared vigilance, and social grooming reinforce cognitive skills through repeated practice and social learning. Across species, behavior and neural architecture are inseparable, forming integrated systems that allow organisms to perceive, evaluate, and respond effectively to their environments. Extreme cognitive strategies often arise under unusual selective pressures. Arctic foxes remember the locations of caches under deep snow, returning months later to retrieve food. Migratory birds integrate multiple sensory cues, combining geomagnetic, visual, and olfactory information to navigate thousands of kilometers. Predatory mammals anticipate the actions of prey, employing stealth, strategy, and timing. In each case, intelligence manifests as a precise adaptation to ecological complexity, illustrating that cognition is a flexible, problem-solving tool shaped by survival challenges rather than a static property. Socially, emergent intelligence provides additional layers of complexity. Ant colonies distribute cognitive tasks across many individuals, generating coordinated outcomes without centralized control. Dolphin pods exhibit cooperative hunting strategies that require planning, communication, and the ability to anticipate the movements of both prey and conspecifics. In humans, collective intelligence scales exponentially. Shared knowledge, cumulative culture, and technological collaboration allow species-wide problem-solving that surpasses the capacity of any single individual. These patterns demonstrate that intelligence can reside both in individuals and in groups, adapting to the structure and scale of social interaction. Energy efficiency remains a crucial constraint on cognitive evolution. Neural tissue is metabolically expensive, requiring trade-offs between brain size, energy intake, and other physiological functions. Species have evolved strategies to optimize this balance. Small, dense neurons in birds and primates allow complex computation without excessive mass. Distributed networks in octopuses and insects maximize behavioral flexibility while minimizing energy expenditure. Human culture externalizes cognitive load through tools, writing, and technology, extending intelligence beyond the limitations of individual metabolism. Across life, energy allocation is a central factor shaping the form, scale, and efficiency of cognitive systems. The interplay between learning, memory, and plasticity creates dynamic intelligence, capable of responding to novel situations. Organisms that can store past experiences, adapt strategies, and modify behavior in response to changing conditions gain a significant survival advantage. Episodic memory, procedural learning, and social observation allow individuals to anticipate outcomes, avoid threats, and exploit opportunities. Plasticity ensures that these abilities remain responsive to environmental variability, illustrating that intelligence is not merely an inherited trait, but an emergent property of living systems interacting with complex, shifting environments. As humans reflect on these patterns, it becomes evident that our cognition is deeply continuous with the evolutionary history of intelligence. Symbolic thought, abstract reasoning, language, and technology represent extensions of foundational capacities observed across species. Cultural accumulation magnifies learning, allowing knowledge to persist across generations and build cumulatively. Yet these capacities are underpinned by the same neural principles, adaptive pressures, and ecological interactions that shaped cognition in cephalopods, birds, insects, and other mammals. Human intelligence is both unique in scale and continuous with life's broader cognitive tapestry. In this quiet, reflective moment, one can perceive intelligence as a shared legacy, a continuum spanning billions of years and countless species. The neurons firing in your brain, the memories that guide your choices, the thoughts forming silently as you rest, all echo the processes that have enabled life to sense, respond, and adapt throughout Earth's history. Every act of perception, memory, and problem-solving, whether in a tiny insect colony or a human research lab, is part of this unfolding story, a testament to the enduring capacity of life to understand and navigate the world. As your mind drifts gently toward rest, consider the interwoven threads of cognition connecting all living beings. Intelligence is not a singular achievement, but a mosaic of adaptations, each tuned to environmental, social, and metabolic contexts. From the earliest neural networks to the complex abstractions of modern humans, every step reflects the persistent drive to sense, learn, and act. The evolution of intelligence on Earth is a vast, continuous process, quietly unfolding across time, species, and ecosystems, a subtle yet profound testament to life's enduring ingenuity and awareness. In deserts, savannas, and dense forests, animals have developed specialized cognitive strategies to cope with extreme or variable environments. Desert rodents memorize the locations of scattered food caches, demonstrating spatial precision and risk assessment while avoiding predation. Savanna predators, such as lions and hyenas, employ coordinated hunting strategies, observing and predicting the movements of prey, adjusting tactics dynamically to to the behavior of both competitors and prey. Rainforest birds navigate multi-layered canopies, tracking fruit availability and remembering individual tree locations over extended periods. Each of these examples shows that intelligence evolves as a precise response to environmental complexity, reflecting adaptation to both immediate and long-term challenges. Among marine species, cognition is equally specialized. Dolphins and whales coordinate complex social strategies, employing cooperative hunting and vocal learning to transmit knowledge across generations. Octopuses adapt to rapidly changing conditions in reef environments, solving novel problems, manipulating objects, and exhibiting impressive memory despite short lifespans. Even tiny cephalopods display sophisticated camouflage behaviors, integrating sensory input from multiple modalities to control color, texture, and posture in real time, a remarkable example of rapid sensory motor computation and adaptive behavior. These examples illustrate that intelligence can manifest in myriad ways, finely tuned to ecological and social circumstances. Across insects, collective cognition illustrates a striking form of distributed intelligence. Ant colonies optimize foraging paths using pheromone trails, respond adaptively to environmental changes, and coordinate construction tasks without centralized control. Honeybees communicate complex spatial information through the waggle dance, conveying distance and direction of resources with precision. In these systems, intelligence is emergent. The colony functions as a cohesive problem-solving entity, demonstrating that cognition need not reside in a single organism, but can arise through interaction, feedback, and distributed processing. Human cognition, while extraordinary in abstraction and scale, reflects these same evolutionary principles. Memory, learning, social reasoning, and problem-solving are extensions of capacities present in other species, magnified through culture, language, and technological innovation. The ability to externalize knowledge through writing, tools, and now digital technology extends intelligence beyond the limits of the individual brain, creating cumulative culture and accelerating adaptation. Scientific reasoning, mathematics, and engineering are contemporary manifestations of these same principles, demonstrating the ongoing evolution of intelligence within a species capable of reflecting on its own cognition. Energy allocation remains a central constraint even in humans. Brains consume large amounts of metabolic resources, and human evolution has favored strategies that maximize efficiency. Social structures, food acquisition, and technology have co-evolved with cognitive capacity, allowing the species to support large, energetically expensive brains. Plasticity, learning, and cultural accumulation further enhance adaptability, enabling humans to navigate complex environments and create solutions to novel challenges, reinforcing the reciprocal relationship between cognition, behavior, and survival. Ultimately, intelligence is a spectrum rather than a hierarchy. Each species exhibits cognitive traits shaped by its ecological niche, social organization, and evolutionary history. From solitary predators to eusocial insects, from migratory birds to humans, each instance of cognition represents an adaptation to specific challenges, a solution to problems of perception, memory, learning, and decision-making. The diversity of intelligence underscores its fundamental role as a tool of survival, a flexible mechanism enabling life to persist, respond, and thrive in an ever-changing world. As night deepens, this continuity becomes clear. The neurons firing in your brain, the memories shaping your choices, the thoughts forming silently as you rest, all echo the evolutionary processes that have unfolded over billions of years. Life has experimented with countless ways to sense, respond, and manipulate environments. Every learned skill, every problem-solving behavior, every social interaction is part of the same grand continuum, linking humans to birds, mammals, cephalopods, and even the simplest neural networks in early multicellular life. In this calm, reflective moment, it is possible to perceive intelligence not as a single achievement, but as a mosaic of adaptations, each finely tuned to its context. From the earliest nerve nets to the abstraction and creativity of human minds, cognition is a continuous, evolving property of life itself. The story of intelligence on Earth is thus a tale of adaptation, innovation, and awareness, quietly unfolding across species, ecosystems, and eons. Every organism participates in this ongoing process, a testament to life's capacity to learn, adapt, and understand its world. As you drift toward rest, consider that this vast spectrum of intelligence, the memory of birds, the social strategies of primates, the problem-solving of octopuses, the emergent behavior of insect colonies, and the abstract reasoning of humans, is connected by common evolutionary principles. Intelligence has always been a solution to the challenges of life, a product of neurons, experience, and adaptation. It is, at once, a deeply personal process in your own mind and a shared feature of life across Earth, linking all organisms through the quiet, continuous unfolding of cognition. May this reflection carry you gently into sleep, accompanied by the awareness that intelligence, in all its forms, is part of the fabric of life, persisting, adapting, and evolving silently across time, species, and space. Across the panorama of life, intelligence emerges as a continuous thread linking the simplest and most complex organisms. In the tiniest neural networks of early multicellular life, basic stimulus response mechanisms laid the foundation for adaptive behavior. Over millions of years, incremental changes in neural architecture, synaptic density, and sensory integration allowed organisms to learn, remember, and respond to increasingly complex environmental cues. Evolution shaped these abilities under the pressures of predation, resource acquisition, and social interaction, producing diverse cognitive strategies tailored to the challenges each species faced. The interplay between environment and cognition reveals that intelligence is never an isolated trait. Spatial complexity encourages memory. Variability in resources favors learning and problem-solving. Social living selects for recognition, cooperation, and sometimes deception. Organisms that navigate dynamic environments, anticipate outcomes, and adjust their behavior demonstrate the adaptive power of intelligence. Across birds, mammals, cephalopods, and insects, these capacities appear in convergent forms, reflecting the universal pressures that shape adaptive cognition. Each neural adaptation, from hippocampal enlargement to distributed ganglia, represents a solution to the problem of survival and environmental interaction. Social systems amplify intelligence in profound ways. Cooperative hunting in predators, coordinated foraging in insect colonies, and cultural transmission in primates and humans illustrate that cognition can reside both in individuals and groups. Information can be shared, learned, and built upon across generations, creating cumulative culture that accelerates adaptation. Language and symbolic thought allow humans to extend this capacity dramatically, externalizing knowledge and enabling collaboration on scales unimaginable in other species. The evolutionary foundations, however, remain continuous with the principles observed in other forms of life: learning, memory, planning, and social coordination. Energy and metabolic constraints continue to shape intelligence. The high cost of neural tissue necessitates trade-offs between brain size, efficiency, and other physiological investments. Species have evolved strategies to optimize this balance: dense neuronal packing, distributed processing, and behavioral economies that reduce unnecessary computation. Humans have further extended cognitive capacity by leveraging culture, technology, and social systems to offload cognitive demands and maximize adaptive success. Across taxa, energy allocation is as fundamental to intelligence as neural architecture or ecological pressures, ensuring that cognition remains finely tuned to survival demands. Plasticity and experience reinforce this continuum. Learning, memory consolidation, and behavioral flexibility allow organisms to respond adaptively to new challenges within a single lifetime, complementing the slower process of genetic evolution. Neural plasticity permits rewiring and adaptation. Memory stores accumulated knowledge, and experience informs decision-making. These mechanisms are central to intelligence, providing both the stability and flexibility required for survival in a complex, changing world. Reflecting on this vast continuum, one can perceive intelligence as a shared characteristic of life, expressed in myriad forms, yet governed by common principles. It is the integration of neural structures, sensory input, experience, social interaction, and environmental pressures that produces the adaptive behaviors observed in every species. From ants coordinating colony activity, to dolphins transmitting learned behaviors, from birds recalling hundreds of cache sites, to humans building civilizations. Intelligence is a versatile tool for survival, a spectrum of solutions evolving quietly across time and space. In humans, the capacity for reflection, abstraction, and planning allows a meta-awareness of intelligence itself. We can observe cognition in other species, trace its evolutionary history, and contemplate its mechanisms. This reflective capacity is both a product of and a continuation of the same evolutionary processes that shaped learning, memory, problem-solving, and social reasoning in countless other organisms. It situates human intelligence within a broader tapestry, linking us intimately with the life that surrounds us. As night settles and your thoughts drift toward quiet, consider the neurons firing in your brain as echoes of an ancient lineage. Each thought, each memory, each decision is grounded in the adaptive strategies that life has honed over billions of years. Intelligence is not a sudden invention, but the result of continuous, incremental evolution, a mosaic of solutions shaped by environment, energy, sociality, and neural architecture. Every organism participates in this process, whether through solitary exploration, collective coordination, or cumulative cultural transmission. In this stillness, it becomes clear that intelligence, in all its forms, is a testament to life's capacity to sense, learn, adapt, and understand. It is a continuum linking the simplest nervous systems to the elaborate networks of human brains, a quiet, persistent unfolding across eons. As you drift towards sleep, let this reflection settle gently. The evolution of intelligence on Earth is both ancient and ongoing, a shared inheritance of life, quietly weaving through every species, every mind, and every interaction with the world. Looking across the diversity of life, it is remarkable how intelligence has been shaped by persistent forces of adaptation. Every organism, from the simplest invertebrate to the most complex mammal, demonstrates ways of perceiving, remembering, and responding to its environment. Even minimal neural circuits convey information, allowing responses to stimuli, while more complex brains integrate experience, predict outcomes, and guide intricate behavior. Across oceans, forests, deserts, and savannas, life has experimented with innumerable strategies to sense and navigate the world, creating a spectrum of cognitive abilities finely tuned to ecological and social demands. The human mind, capable of abstraction and foresight, is one node on this continuum. Yet its extraordinary capacities, language, culture, technology, emerge from the same fundamental principles that govern cognition in other species: neural plasticity, memory, learning, problem-solving, and social interaction. The capacity to reflect on intelligence itself, to study and understand the minds of others, and to manipulate the environment in unprecedented ways illustrates the culmination of evolutionary pressures extended by culture and accumulated knowledge. Human intelligence is both a continuation and an amplification of processes that began with early multicellular organisms responding to simple environmental cues. Comparative studies illuminate the richness of this spectrum. Corvids remember complex spatial patterns, anticipate outcomes, and innovate solutions. Cetaceans navigate socially and spatially complex environments, learning behaviors through observation and imitation. Octopuses demonstrate rapid learning, sophisticated motor control, and environmental manipulation, despite brief lifespans. Social insects create coordinated outcomes without centralized cognition, illustrating emergent intelligence. Each of these examples demonstrates that intelligence is context-specific, yet all share the same fundamental properties: the ability to process information, learn from experience, and adapt behaviorally to improve survival. Energy and efficiency shape cognition across species. Brains are costly, requiring substantial metabolic investment, and evolution optimizes their structure and function to balance energy expenditure with behavioral benefit. Dense neural packing, distributed networks, and modular architectures allow efficient computation. Behavioral strategies further reduce energy costs, whether through social cooperation, distributed task allocation, or learned environmental exploitation. Human culture extends these efficiencies, externalizing cognitive labor through tools, language, and digital systems. Across life, energy constraints ensure that intelligence remains a flexible, adaptive resource rather than a limitless property. Plasticity ensures that intelligence is not static. Experiences, environmental variation, and social interaction refine behavior in real time. Memory stores knowledge of past events, guiding future action. Learning allows trial and error, observation, and imitation to improve effectiveness. Across all species, these mechanisms produce adaptive behavior that can respond to both immediate and long-term challenges. Life has evolved an array of strategies to encode, recall, and act upon information, demonstrating that intelligence is dynamic, responsive, and intimately connected to survival. As night deepens and your own breathing slows, consider the continuity of these processes. Every thought and memory in your mind is linked to the evolutionary heritage of intelligence. Neural networks, synapses, and plasticity are echoes of structures honed over billions of years. Problem solving, social reasoning, and environmental manipulation are extensions of adaptive strategies shared with countless other species. Intelligence is thus both deeply personal and profoundly communal, embedded in the network of life itself, spanning oceans, forests, deserts, and the sky. Reflecting gently, one can perceive that the evolution of intelligence is a story of persistence, adaptation, and connection. Every neural circuit, every learned behavior, every collective strategy in a colony, flock, or pod is part of this unbroken thread. Life has explored innumerable ways to sense, remember, plan, and act, producing a staggering diversity of solutions to the fundamental challenges of existence. Each organism participates in this ongoing narrative, quietly weaving cognition into the fabric of survival and adaptation. As you drift further into rest, let this understanding settle calmly. Intelligence is a continuum, not a pinnacle, a mosaic of adaptations, not a hierarchy. From early neural networks to complex human cognition, from solitary problem solving to emergent group strategies, from immediate survival to long-term planning, life has continuously refined the capacity to perceive, learn, and act. In this quiet, reflective state, it is possible to sense that you are part of this continuum, connected to all life by the same adaptive processes that have shaped intelligence across eons. May this reflection accompany your sleep, the neurons firing silently in your brain, the memories and problem-solving guiding your subconscious, the capacity for learning and adaptation, all echo the evolution of intelligence itself. Across species, across environments, and across time, intelligence is a shared inheritance, a subtle, continuous process that binds life together in understanding, awareness, and adaptation.